Right now, on the National Weather Desk, April nor'easter. Hundreds of thousands are without power as heavy snow brings down trees and power lines in New England.
The conditions we're looking at, Maine DOT described as treacherous.
After the storms, communities across the Midwest are cleaning up following this week's tornadoes.
Pieces of debris now lay scattered where there was once a building to hold tools, a truck, and a boat.
Are you ready for Monday's eclipse? We'll help you understand exactly what will be happening.
Temperatures could drop by as much as 10 to 20 degrees.
Snow survey, what California's snowpack depth tells us about the water supply.
He converts inches of snow depth into inches of water content.
Plus, what's up with these clouds that look like jellyfish?
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
Good morning and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm meteorologist Jordan Evans. A nor'easter is pounding New England again this morning, bringing heavy snow from Massachusetts to Maine. Maine is seeing the worst of the storm with snow that's likely to keep falling into tomorrow. Most of the state will see at least a foot of snow with higher totals in the mountains. Nearly 400,000 customers already without power. Many more expected. Those numbers have grown significantly just in the past few hours. We have two reports, starting with Johnny Mayfie, who is along the Maine Turnpike.
Despite us being in four-wheel drive all morning long the last couple hours, well, it is slippery and slick. The snow is heavy, and you can see the trees behind us too here. That's not just along the turnpike or along the highways. That's everywhere, and that's definitely causing some power outages. This stuff is heavy and wet, and it's not blowing anywhere. Well, the snow falling is blowing around, but it'll toss for you. It's not going to hit you in the face when you throw it around. It's not powdery at all, but the conditions we're looking at, Maine DOT described as treacherous.
The trees are being cleaned up. You have some low power lines on the side that looks like power line or a cable cord as well. A lot of the trees are leaning on over, and that's the cause of that heavy, wet, pasty, cement-like snow. I saw a lot of pictures of some trees already down on the side of the road. This will continue throughout much of the morning, but things will become a lot less heavier as we head towards the afternoon.
Northeast Wisconsin continues to deal with the aftermath of this week's winter storm. Crews have been working around the clock to get power restored, but still several customers are without electricity. Andrew Mertens looks at how crews and homeowners are adjusting.
Woke up thinking, hey, I bet the power's going to be on, but it wasn't.
All across Brown County, it wasn't hard to find people without power.
I expect I'll be without power for another day yet.
Numerous homes and businesses were still without power late Wednesday morning. Outages even forced Ashwaubenon School District to close schools for the day. Wet, heavy snow, and powerful winds were key factors in the widespread outages.
Going to have flooded basements, a lot of them, with the power off. This is the wrong kind, and you can see how wet it is.
WPS says it's been difficult to restore power as new outages were reported throughout the day.
We've had new outages that have continued to come in during the morning hours today as our crews have been working to repair the outages that we've had from yesterday afternoon, yesterday evening. So that has impacted our overall restoration efforts. We also have brought in additional outside crews, additional contract crews to assist us with making those repairs in areas that have been heavily impacted by this storm.
Many people, like Marianne Oates of Ashwaubenon, were in the dark for quite some time. Her power was knocked out around 6 on Tuesday evening. She did her best to remain patient.
You just live with it. You know, I know that the crews are working as hard as they can, and there's been a lot of trees gone down, and there's nothing you can do about it.
People living on Virginia's northern neck are picking up the pieces after a possible tornado barreled through the region yesterday afternoon. Maggie Marshall has the story.
It's just unbelievable.
People in the town of Callio are left in disbelief as they describe what they heard and saw Wednesday afternoon.
Calm, and then it just started picking up winds really bad. So I was like, this isn't good. So of course, me being me, I'm standing there watching for a second, and the trees started falling like dominoes. So I took off to inside the house to make sure everybody else is okay, and it just got loud and dark, heavy rain.
When the storm calmed, he says he ran outside to check out what happened. He put his drone up and saw this. a clear path where he believes a tornado ripped through his community.
Can't believe the damage in this area. The worst, we've had a tropical storm occasionally and a little bit of flooding, but to see that kind of damage and unfortunately property damage.
He flew his drone over a 2-mile radius. He saw items thrown across people's yards, hundreds of trees fallen onto roads and power lines, and homes where the roof was completely ripped off. While it's too early to tell the extent of the damage, locals say they're determined to do what they can to help their neighbors.
And Tuesday's storms brought so much rain to West Virginia, they triggered a mudslide at a cemetery. This is what the Mount Zion Cemetery in Wheeling looked like yesterday. The mud rolled down the hillside, destroying several headstones. We were told no caskets were caught in the slide. Meantime, a small West Virginia community is cleaning up after another possible tornado touchdown there. Anna Saunders takes us to La Vista, West Virginia.
The devastation is all around on this small stretch of Route 60. Homes destroyed and knocked off foundations. A gas station also destroyed. Only 3 people had minor injuries, but an estimated 13 homes were damaged and destroyed. The National Weather Service will be out to survey the damage on Thursday and will confirm whether or not this was a tornado. Those who lived through it say there is just no other way to describe what they witnessed.
And stuff started flying by, so we started through the house, and that's when the roof come off and the ceiling collapsed on my husband and hit him in the head, but he's okay. And by then the storm was over.
So it just happened so quick.
Just that fast.
Surveyors from the National Weather Service inspected possible tornado damage in Indiana yesterday as well. Surveying a tornado means looking for evidence of circulation, opposed to straight-line wind damage. That's when objects are blown in one direction. Here in Posey County, they found uprooted and snapped trees, damaged roofs and barns, sheds that were also destroyed. Surveyors were also out in Alabama, where a tornado touched down on Tuesday. Megan Sacrano spoke with a family cleaning up their damaged property.
Thankfully, Roger Bean's family made it through the storm unharmed. But the same can't be said for his workshop.
We built a shop before we actually built this house.
The winds proving to be too much for the building. Jason Davis with the National Weather Service out of Birmingham tells me how they were able to determine the storm that hit in the Pools Crossroads area was an EF0.
We kind of looked at how the wooden beams were attached into the ground, and again also looked a lot at the surrounding area and tried to see what was damaged and what wasn't damaged. In this case, the trees around it were not as very damaged. It was mostly limited to the barn.
For Bean, he's not fazed by what he lost. With his family safe, he's got all he needs to move forward.
God's grace is always amazing, but sometimes life can be rough. It ain't always roses.
This week marks 50 years since the deadly 1974 super outbreak of tornadoes that ripped through 13 states. The event was the first on record to produce more than 100 tornadoes in just a 24-hour period. In Ohio, an F5 hit Sailor Park neighborhood near Cincinnati. David Winter spoke to folks who lived through the devastation.
The F5 tornado that would mow a path through Sailor Park seemed to come out of nowhere. It was about 5:15 p.m. when Bev Eiding's husband walked outside.
And the tornado was at the top of the Kentucky Hills on its way down the hill, across the river, and into Sailor Park. And he come running in, get to the basement.
Bev says she grabbed the kids and headed down. Glenn Becker lived down the street.
Seen the black funnel cloud through all the branches coming.
Had you ever seen anything like that before in your life?
No, but I knew what it was.
Minutes before, the Beckers' young boys asked their mom,
if a tornado came here, what would that be like? What would that be like? I said, well, The Wizard of Oz. Remember the movie, The Wizard? Oh, they were all excited.
But when Glenn came in screaming for everyone to get to the basement, their excitement turned.
One of the boys asked me, are we going to die? And I'm like, no, but we're going to say a prayer.
Those prayers answered. No one in Sailor Park died, but dozens of homes were destroyed, including the Beckers.
The whole front of the house was gone.
We survived a lot.
Now to the moon. Do you ever wonder what time it is there? Well, NASA is trying to figure it out. The White House asked NASA to give the moon its own time zone. The deadline is the end of 2026. According to the White House, the Coordinated Lunar Time, or LTC, would be important as the pace of activity at the moon increases. And coming up on the National Weather Desk, we'll head to Rhode Island to see how officials are working to rebuild dunes along the coast. And we'll continue our countdown to the total solar eclipse with a look at exactly what you can expect to see during the big event.
I'm meteorologist Charlie Lopresti with a look at the Northeast. We have a big storm moving through the Northeast this morning. Heavy snow, parts of southern New England seeing heavy rainfall around the time of high tide. There is potential for some coastal flooding, and the wind is picking up as well. Areas that get the heavy wet snow to the north, power outages are expected. This is 2 o'clock in the afternoon today. Notice the storm is slow to move out. The storm's going to spin down and weaken both Friday and Saturday. So in the Northeast, we'll have additional rain and snow showers, and the wind stays active into Saturday.
I'm Chief Meteorologist Gerard Jabali. Here's a look at the Mid-Atlantic region. Thursday is going to have a few more showers across the area. They'll mainly be in the afternoon. They'll pop up and be just spotting across the area. And as we get into Friday, more of that, more spotty showers. They won't amount to a whole lot of rainfall, and they'll be hit or miss. Temperatures will only reach the mid-50s on Thursday. Looks like Friday will still be fairly cool as well. Highs again in the mid-50s. Lows overnight will be in the 30s. We recover next week into the 70s.
I'm meteorologist Vitas Reed. Here's a look at your southeast forecast highs for the day. Raleigh, 61 degrees, 66 in Macon. Pensacola, about 72 degrees, 75 Tampa, 81 in West Palm. Very big system. That area of low pressure going across the Great Lakes will continue to march up to the north, bringing some clouds across parts of Tennessee and over parts of Raleigh down through those regions. But it looks like as you're in Mississippi, Alabama, through Georgia and Florida, lots of sunshine, drier and cooler temperatures as we go through the day, as we continue to see that front push to the south.
Welcome back to the National Weather Desk. We are now just 4 days from next week's total solar eclipse. All week we have been taking a look at what the weather will be like during the eclipse. We have mostly been looking at the U.S. model known as the GFS, but here's the latest cloud cover now from the European model, one of the other long-range models. It's still not looking very good for many areas in the path of totality, especially Texas and portions of New York. As a reminder, this forecast will change. It updates 6 hours a day, every 6 hours between now and Monday. So what you can expect to happen now during the eclipse, meteorologist Avery Tomasco shows us how things will unfold in Austin, Texas, along the path of totality.
Our journey begins at 12:17 p.m. with the sun directly overhead, slowly crossing paths with the moon. There won't be much to notice at first as the partial eclipse begins, unless you're using those certified eclipse glasses. But things will change shortly thereafter. Due to something called the pinhole camera effect, shadows beneath the trees will be dotted with inverted projections of the shrinking sun. You'll also start to notice the atmosphere cooling down as the Earth is releasing heat with less and less of the sun's energy to replace it. Depending on how much humidity is in the air, temperatures could drop by as much as 10 to 20 degrees. And as temperatures drop, any fair weather cumulus clouds overhead developing from thermal updrafts may begin to shrink or even disappear entirely. As totality nears, it'll become noticeably darker. And due to something known as the Purkinje effect and the way our eyes see and process color, everything around you will begin to appear color less vibrant, more muted, gray and dull. And then just after 1:36 p.m., totality. For just a few minutes, you'll be able to look directly at the eclipse without glasses. There will be a 360-degree violet crown sunset happening all around you. It'll be dark enough for birds to be fooled into thinking it's time to fly home for the night, and any bees sipping on nectar or frantically trying to return to the hive will stop flying entirely, unable to navigate without the sunshine. You may also hear other insects singing their usual evening songs. And then it ends. Slowly but surely, everything resets itself in reverse as the moon moves away from the sun, and by 3 p.m., we return to reality after experiencing what many go an entire lifetime without. And if you're wondering if it's worth it to find a spot in the path of totality, well, here's what totality looks like to the naked eye, and here's what 99% looks like. Plan accordingly.
Thank you, Avery. One way people are going to try and get a great view of the eclipse is with a telescope. But that can come with some risks. Let's check out a recent Instagram post from meteorologist Chicago Windler with some tips to get the best views and protect your eyes if viewing the big event through a telescope.
So if you're planning on watching the April 8th eclipse and you have a telescope, there are some really important safety tips that you need to know about.
One of the most important things is making sure that you've actually got a filter on the telescope. You never want to look through the telescope at the sun unprotected.
Is there a certain type or brand or specification for a telescope?
Well, if you have the right solar filter, because that's the most important thing, virtually any telescope will work. The sun is so bright that you really don't need anything large or powerful. You want a purpose-made white light solar filter to be sure that what you're seeing is really going to be safe. If you've got a filter like this, you will see the sun's disk with sunspots, and you'll see the moon's surface basically crawl across. I'm David Bryant. I'm an amateur astronomer and very excited to be talking to you about the eclipse.
And stay with the National Weather Desk as we count down the days until the April 8th eclipse. We'll have 3 hours of live coverage as we track the eclipse from Texas to Maine on Monday, April 8th. We also have an entire playlist dedicated to the eclipse on our YouTube channel. Just search the National Weather Desk and be sure to subscribe. On Tuesday, snowpack was measured throughout the Sierra Nevada mountains. Rich Rodriguez traveled to the mountains to give us an inside look at the snow survey in action.
It's a bit of a hike with snowshoes to get to an area of the Kings River watershed where the snow survey is performed. The elevation is 6,500 feet. Matthew Meadows is Assistant Watermaster for Kings River Water Association.
And get down to it. I believe I hit some ice, but we're going to check before I get a big soil sample.
The first sample shows a depth of 47.5 inches. 2 other samples are below that figure. After each poke into the snow, Meadows weighs the snow in the tube. He converts inches of snow depth into inches of water content. The first sample reveals 19.5 inches of water in the snowpack.
That means that 39% of the snowpack that we were standing on was frozen or, water in the snow. The rest was air.
When the snow eventually melts, not every drop winds up in a creek or streams to a reservoir. The trees, Meadows says, soak up an enormous amount of water, plus the vegetation in the forest is thirsty too. While the snowpack in the southern Sierra has improved since January, it's nowhere close to last year.
Last year was record snowpack. We also had, for the Kings River, a record runoff year.
Runoff was 300% above average. The April 1st snow survey for the Kings River watershed, which covers nearly 1 million acres, is 90% of average.
Recent storms have been a major challenge for people living along the Rhode Island coast. In the town of Narragansett, crews are already starting work on building back beaches destroyed by the severe weather. Katie Benoit has more.
A busy afternoon on Narragansett Town Beach with dump trucks bringing load after load of sand. Crews are adding about 1,500 tons to the dunes. Waves, wind, and rain from the last few storms have eroded away about 12 feet.
The dunes are our first line of defense when it comes to our buildings, again, our parking lots, etc. So they're very important.
Parks and Recreation Director Michelle Kershaw says it's the first time Narragansett has rebuilt the dunes since Superstorm Sandy more than a decade ago. What does that tell you?
It tells me that sea level is rising, the storms are increasing, we're losing a lot of the beach because of the storms and erosion. It could be climate change as well. A lot of people talk about that factor.
The next part of the restoration project will happen in the middle of the month. Volunteers will put in plants to help hold the sand. New fencing will also be installed. Once the weather is better and the storms have passed, trucks will put down about 780 tons of sand closer to the water, up from past years.
Each year we do examine the beach and the condition that it's in. Sometimes we bring in sand, sometimes we do not, but it's more along the lines of maybe 150 to 200 cubic yards of sand.
Other beaches in the Ocean State will likely be doing similar projects soon, with winter's storms taking a toll on the coastline.
And as we go to break, let's take in views of Montana's Lolo Pass.
Well, good Thursday morning. I'm meteorologist Phil Kelly. We still have a pesky area of low pressure hanging out over the Great Lakes. That's going to continue to spend moisture, either some snow showers, some rain showers. Pretty raw, really, from Milwaukee down to Columbus and Lexington. Temperatures only into the 40s. Much nicer west of the Mississippi. Plenty of sunshine into the upper 50s to low 60s. We finally see that drying line move off to the east before our next system starts to move in for the second half of the weekend.
Good Thursday morning. I'm meteorologist Joe DiCarlo. Look at our forecast across the region. We're in for another beauty. We'll start off cool and crisp, 40s up north to right about 60 down across South Texas. And as we head into the afternoon, really comfortable, low humidity, plenty of sun no matter where you are. So 70 up towards Oklahoma City to the upper 80s as you work towards South Texas. Again, plenty of sunshine and relatively low humidity. We'll have a few more clouds move across the region on Friday, but staying nice. High temperatures in the 70s and 80s.
Good morning. I'm meteorologist Rebecca Stevenson. Here's what's happening across the west. Temperatures way below normal by 10 to 15 degrees. So all this cooling coming in is along with an upper low pressure system that's going to bring in some heavy snow right into the Sierra Nevada of California. We're going to continue to see that mountain snow stretching in across parts of Nevada, up into Oregon and to the Cascades of Washington. Otherwise, lowland rain showers. Pretty light overall, but this is a cool stretch of weather for the West Coast. That's the scene from here.
The National Weather Desk.
Several areas across the country have seen severe weather this week. With that in mind, we want to show you a recent TikTok post from meteorologist Lexi Horvath to explain the difference between a watch and a warning and how you can prepare for severe weather.
It is important to note the difference between a watch and a warning. A watch means the event is possible but not guaranteed. In other words, we are looking out for hazardous conditions. You're going to want to have a plan. A warning means a severe weather event is occurring or it's about to happen. Take action now. So in the case of a severe weather event, where should you go? Safest spots in a tornadic event are the low points, the basement, or the very center of your home, away from windows, doors, or outside walls. Even if there's a case where there's not a tornado, hail can still be a severe factor. From the size of a pea all the way up to the size of a grapefruit, you're still going to want to take precaution.
We'd love to share your weather content on the air. You can find us on all your favorite social media platforms. Just search the National Weather Desk. We'll be right back. Thank you for joining us. I'm meteorologist Jordan Evans. Make it a great Thursday. We'll see you right back here tomorrow.